so many stories that have had an effect on this year. Just this year, 2025, um, which will end up having a big effect on us in the year 2026. I couldn't pick them all. I had to pick the top 10 most important stories of the year 2025. So let's do this. Let's get to number 10. Number 10. This is one that usually finds its way onto these top 10 lists, and this year is no different. Climate change. It is smacking us down. Like the weather is smacking us down right now. Just before we got here, California, much of California is flooding and underwater. Like places that you would normally see flooding are flooding. And this is the crazy part is that a place like Altadena, where they're having floods right now, in January they had a horrific, destructive wildfires, the worst wildfires in the history of Los Angeles, that affected Los Angeles and San Diego counties in California. These fires were exacerbated by extreme drought conditions, low humidity, buildup of vegetation from the previous winter, and these hurricane force Santa Ana winds, which in some places reached 100 miles per hour. Wow. Yes. These wildfires killed between 31 and 440 people and forced 200,000 people to evacuate, destroyed more than 18,000 homes, burned over 57,000 acres of land. Like this was really apocalyptic. I remember when this happened at the beginning of this year. Those pictures coming out of LA look downright apocalyptic. And I know everybody loves to make fun of LA and California and all this other stuff. But California is one of the biggest economies in the world. I think it's the 5th largest economy on the planet. Without California, and particularly LA, which is the main economic engine of California, the United States of America would be in some deep trouble. You know, would be in a lot of deep trouble. It's our 2nd largest city. One of the biggest economic engines on the planet. I mean, they're going to have the World Cup and the Olympics in a few years. LA is an important part of America, and we saw it almost burn to the ground. That is not something I think most of us thought we would see in our lifetimes. But that wasn't the only climate change disaster. I mean, all over the world, this has become a worldwide issue. The Pakistan has had horrific floods where over 1,000 people died. Sumatra, Sri Lanka, and southern India, we had Hurricane Melissa. Hurricane Melissa, one of the strongest Atlantic Earth hurricanes, which caused widespread destruction when it struck Jamaica. Like Jamaica looked really bad after Hurricane Melissa. Now, again, a lot of people don't believe in climate change, but in the case of Hurricane Melissa, scientists linked the storm's extreme strength to warmer ocean temperatures, which are made more likely by human-driven climate change. So you have to look at that. The U.S. in general experienced an extremely high number of catastrophic events. In 2025, at least 14 disasters in the first half of the year alone, with a combined cost of over $100 billion from things like floods, storms, and wildfires. Like, this is only looking like it's going to get worse in the future, and things like all these data centers, which I don't want to spoil, but that's going to be on there. All these data centers that are emitting so much carbon, making people sick, using up air, using up water to cool them. This is going to be a problem. This is going to look much like the dystopian future that science fiction novelists have essentially said that we would have. You know, and a lot of guys like Elon Musk seem to be eager to bring about the sort of ecological holocaust that could be coming in the future. In the Pacific, I forgot, Washington State as well was another place that saw a lot of flooding. Washington State and British Columbia and Canada. You know, how often do you see Washington State be underwater? Like it's very rare, very rare. So number 10 is climate change kicking all of our behinds and going to continue to. I mean, it's pretty hot outside. I mean, this is Christmas time. I know we had a lot of snow and cold weather after Thanksgiving, which is when we weren't expecting it, but on Christmas it's like 50 degrees in the Midwest. In the Midwest, how often have you seen a 50-degree Christmas in the Midwest? You just rarely see that. So again, these changes in our climate are something that we are going to have to really keep note of for the upcoming near future. That was number 10, climate change catastrophes. Let's go to number 9. Africa. You know, I told you last year, I think during last year's show, that Africa was going to continue to play a big part of the year 2025, and it has. We've seen a lot of conflicts in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The Bukavu offensive by the M23 rebel groups was a huge escalation in that conflict and displacing many. We've seen what's going on in Nigeria. Donald Trump just struck on Christmas Day. Donald Trump just bombed Nigeria, northern Nigeria, in the name of, I guess, supposedly fighting back against the Islamic fundamentalist extremists who are killing Christians, they say. A lot of people who are actually from Nigeria say that it's much more of an ethnic and a sort of a territorial thing than a religious thing. But notice, Donald Trump is not saying that all those black Christians who are being murdered in Nigeria should be able to come to America. Have you noticed that? When it was a supposed white genocide in South Africa, he brought all those fat farmers to America, and many of them had to leave because they couldn't stand living here. But you notice he's not saying we need to bring the black Christians here. So once again, just sort of another mask off moment for the Trump administration, where they're sort of openly courting white supremacist support and white supremacist approval. This is basically, I mean, they're basically open with it. They're like, yeah, we just want white people here. That's it. You know, Trump has even himself said, we don't want people from the bleep hole countries. Why can't we have people from Denmark and Sweden and those countries? Well, because those countries have universal health care. Those countries tax their billionaires, and so people don't feel the need to leave Sweden and Denmark and Switzerland en masse to come to the United States. Why would they come to the United States and take a step down in living standards so that you and your friends can play Monopoly with all of our wealth and resources as a society? They don't need to leave for health care. They don't need to leave for any living standard issue. That's why you're not getting them. The people you get are the people from the countries that the United States of America keeps unstable with our foreign policy that regularly assassinates presidents or overthrows governments, leading to mass upheaval in these countries and mass exodus of its citizens. So, I mean, again, you're sort of seeing this play out once again in Nigeria, and which is will be another country that we, the United States of America, have bombed. Obviously, the Sudanese conflict made a lot of headlines, made some headlines. West Africa. West Africa in general, probably one of my favorite stories of the year 2025. West Africa and West Africans are getting free. You hear me? Free. Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso, Abdur Rahman Chiani in I think it's Niger, and Assimi Goita in Mali. These people are not messing around. They have kicked the French out. They're kicking the Americans out. They're doing business with the Russians, the Chinese, and people who actually respect them on some level and just don't view them as slaves and potential slaves. And they are deciding, they are taking their own fortunes into their own hands after years of, being treated as colonial subjects by Western imperialist nations like the United States, like Great Britain, France, and other states. And so that is a big, big story in the year 2025. Of course, we talked about the fake South African white genocide that Donald Trump decided was the single most important thing in the history of the world. Like, just such a sort of bizarre, an absolutely bizarre stance to take. But what that was about was Elon Musk. Elon Musk is from apartheid South Africa. That's where he's from. Those are his people. That's his father owned a emerald mine in South Africa. His mother's father, Joshua Haldeman, migrated to South Africa in I want to say the 40s or the 50s. No, I take that back. During World War II. It's during World War II. Because he was a Nazi supporter in Canada. And Canada was not racist enough for Joshua Haldeman. And so he went to apartheid South Africa because he saw it as the forefront of the white supremacist project, imperialist project. And he wrote extensively about this. So that's who Elon Musk comes from. That's who he is. And again, his father owned an emerald mine in apartheid South Africa, used black people as servants, basically. His father also I don't want to say a pedo, but also groomed his own stepdaughter and had a relationship and got her pregnant, had a child by her. That's what Elon Musk comes from. That's who he is. That's what he is deep down. And this sort of imaginary white genocide that him and Trump cooked up is likely to have very big consequences for us on the African continent. Also, they were punishing South Africa for calling what Israel's doing a genocide. That was another part of the impetus behind the supposed white genocide that's supposedly going on in South Africa. Is that they are mad at and they're also mad at South Africa for being a part of the BRICS project with Russia and Brazil, India, China. And so, BRICS, I expect that to be a big story in the year 2026. They didn't make the countdown this year, but you better believe BRICS is coming. BRICS is absolutely coming, and do not sleep on the economic alliance from all these countries that are sick and tired of being bullied by the United States of America, and South Africa is one of those countries. They still have a lot of resources, and they have a lot of reasons now, thanks to Donald Trump, to be even more receptive to the overtures from China and Russia. So, number 9, Africa. Africa, Africa, Africa. One of the biggest stories of the year 2025. Let's go to number 8. The Gaza ceasefire, or should I say Gaza in general. Again, this was sort of we're in year 2 of the genocide that's happening in Gaza. Since the start of the genocide in Gaza, Israel has killed at least 70,942 Palestinians and injured at least 171,000. Francesca Albanese, who's the United Nations Special Rapporteur, says that some scholars and scientists estimate the real death toll in Gaza at 680,000. 680,000, with 380,000 of them being infants under 5 years old. This was the year that Israel became a pariah in much of the world, because the entire world sees what they're doing and what they've been doing and how evil, blatantly evil, what they're doing is. Like many countries all over the world have suspended relations with Israel, they are pretty much done. On the world stage, they're done. They are done on the world stage. Nobody in the world really wants anything to do with Israel because of this genocide. Countries even started dropping out of the Eurovision Song Contest, which is a very big deal in Europe. In Europe, they have it's almost like American Idol, but it's like for the entire continent of Europe. And Israel, in spite of being supposedly a Middle Eastern country, that's what they purport to be. They purport to be in a Middle Eastern country. They are a part of the Eurovision Song Contest because, let's just be real, they are really white people from Western Europe. They're really white people from Europe cosplaying as Middle Easterners, Ashkenazis who converted to Judaism like in the Middle Ages or something. These are not the people from the book. And though you still have some Christians, some, delusional, deluded Christian people who refuse to see the truth and tend to go along with the Zionist project, the rest of the world has already seen that, like, yeah, what Israel's doing is so evil that it can't be just rationalized. I'm sorry, it can't be. And it won't be. And, this was the year that we saw the world react in such a visceral way to what Israel's doing. There was supposedly a ceasefire that began on October the 10th of this year, but Israel has not observed it. At least 411 Palestinians have been killed and 1,000 injured. And that's just in the last 2 months since the so-called ceasefire has been going on. Also, Israel has occupied an additional 10% of Gaza since the ceasefire, which means that 63% of Gaza is now an IDF designated kill zone. Think about that. 63% of Israel is an IDF designated kill zone. This is where we're at now. And the whole world has watched this. People always say, Well, how did Nazi Germany get to do systematically wipe out whole communities of Jews in during World War II in the 1930s and 40s? This is how. This is how. But I will say there's been protests about this across the world. Israel is done. Their economy is collapsing. People are fleeing Israel in droves. These are things that our corporate media isn't talking about because the Zionists control our media. We talked about last week Larry Ellison, the second richest man in the world, who owns Paramount and is trying to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. He already controls CBS News and appointed a Zionist propagandist named Barry Weiss to run CBS News, and she is completely destroying their credibility. Their ratings are in the toilet. Like, it's pretty much over for Israel and people who support the Zionist settler state colonial project that is Israel. It's pretty much over for them. Nobody likes them. Nobody respects them. You know, outside of the people who are either compromised by whatever they're using to blackmail Western politicians with. But for the most part, most of the world is done with Israel. So that is number 8 on our list of the 10 most important news stories of the year 2025. We still have the next 7 stories to get to. We will also say goodbye to those who left us, those we've lost in the year 2025 as well. And of course, we're going to do some happy happies. It wouldn't be straight out of the cannon without happy happies. You're going to like our musical spotlight. Our musical spotlight is a man who is so important that I'm actually shocked. I am shocked that I have not paid tribute to this man earlier because he's such an integral part of everything that is music in the 20th century and in American popular culture. You won't want to miss it. Please stay with us here on WLTH 1370 AM. That is 92.7 in the FM dial. The Regis Choice, the people's voice. We'll be right back.